Hey guys, I'm Mark,
I'm Alon.
and welcome to another episode of The Next Man Up.
Sweet. What's up, man?
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you. Good to
Yeah?
see you.
Good to see you too. For those who are listening, Mark is donning a new T-shirt today. I'm envious of it. I might have to head to the local store and pick up one. This is pretty neat.
I'm pretty easy to please when it comes to clothes. Clean, a nice fit, inexpensive,
Right?
and I'm
what
good to
talking
go.
about, man.
I'm good to go.
That's awesome. Dude, hey, we are ready to rock and roll on another episode, huh?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. These are so
Yeah.
much fun. I'm happy to be here and excited about the things we get to talk about,
Yeah,
the buzz
man.
that we're generating, the conversation that's happening. It's all
Lots
good.
of conversation. Yeah, really, really cool, man. I know something really sweet just happened in your family,
Yeah.
and I thought it would be neat if we talked about it and stuff. What went on with you and Jacob? I think within like this last month or so.
Yeah. So as we've been cultivating this conversation around initiation, I have been wrapping up a 6-year journey with my oldest.
Oh wow!
Down his own rite of passage path, and as this podcast unfolds, we'll spend more and more time there, I'm sure. But,
Sure.
You know, when it began, even before it began, if I could go back a decade,
Please, come on.
I started thinking about what it would be like to actually have this ceremony. And I didn't really even know what that would look like at the time. I just had this picture of Jacob showing up as a boy and leaving as a man. You know, that was my vision. Like, I want him to know whenever this ceremony is complete, there'll be no doubt he's become a man and he knows what to do. So that was like this dream almost, if you will. And really, in some respects, the first time I've ever really had a long-term dream that I've been able to see play out all the way from start to finish.
Cool.
And,
That's really cool.
you know,
man.
so as the dream started 10 years ago, then I began to think about the process, and then the process began to take shape, and each year I knew I was getting closer and closer and closer to this ceremony. And man, it was so good.
That's awesome, man.
It was so good. Like we could fill hours talking about it. We won't put our listeners through that. I'll just capture the highlights, but it was just really, really good.
Man, as soon as you first started talking, I automatically went to Jacob was on one side of the door in diapers. He passes through some dimensional pocket and he like shows up in a black suit and tie.
Yeah.
So like, you know, what was that? What was it all about? What happened? What was the ceremony like? Basically.
Figuratively, you're not too far off. You know, there was a lot of time that evolved from diapers to being 18 years old.
Sure.
But that's kind of what it was like. You know,
Okay.
you come in and then you leave differently. So, you know, this is my story. We've talked a lot about creating space for fathers to do it their own way. This is not by any means a recommendation on how to, other than to say, boy, the ceremony is worth it.
Okay.
Whatever you come up with that's unique to you and to your son, it's worth it. Don't miss this opportunity. So, you know, I knew some of the things that are challenging to my son. I wanted to take him on a trip down memory lane and reflect on all of these different locations as he was growing up, different events, music related, sports related, church or spiritual related, family related. I wanted him to go back through all of these different experiences and spend some time reflecting. What am I leaving behind because I'm growing out of my childhood? What happened here that I want to associate with childhood and leave behind? And what happened here that I can take into manhood that was part of my character formation and made me the man that I am today. So I had originally planned to get him up at like 6 o'clock in the morning, say, welcome to the last day of boyhood. Here's your instructions. We'll see you in about 6 hours. And I sort of did that, but it was modified because unfortunately the boy was dealing with a concussion.
Oh, geez.
And so he was still sort of not cleared to play, so to speak. And I didn't want him driving around the area for the next 4 hours, using up his mental energy. And so
Ending up in a ditch.
right? Like, talk about a bummer, right? Pouring water on the fire for this day. Oh, so anyway, I modified it a little bit, and I just brought him into actually this space, into this office space, and said, I still got him up. I still gave him a nice invitation. I didn't answer any questions other than what was on this invitation, and said, today's a special day, man. I should note this was a surprise. He did not know it was coming.
Really? Okay.
So I got him up and said, today's a special day. Here's all you need to do. We'll see you in a few hours. And so he kind of sequestered himself into this space, and using Google Maps walked through each of these locations and still was able to do the exercise.
Okay.
And got it done in the allotted time. And then meanwhile, I was at a different location. And I had pre-planned this. I'm a planner, I'm an organizer, so I kind of controlled all the details as much as I could.
I understand.
I had invited 6 other men that have been instrumental in his life, in shaping and forming him, to join me at this venue.
Okay.
And had also asked them to prepare some comments around a specific topic that represented a formational character trait that we've been trying to raise up in him. And so they met me there, and we did a little bit of meet and greet. Some of them didn't know each other, and I just kind of walked them through what was to come. We got a grill fired up and started grilling up steaks and potatoes. And then Jacob showed up at the designated time. And so then we had a meal together, and just, we were just hanging out. It was social. As far as he knew, we were just kind of celebrating his victory here. And we hazed him a little bit. We went back in time and brought up embarrassing stories or funny stories. Right? We didn't make this too easy on him.
No, don't.
Although it certainly was not the type of hazing that you hear about in the news. It was just in good fun. And then after the meal was over, after we done kind of joking around, we got down to business. And we spent probably 90 minutes or so of just all 6 of these guys, some family, some friends, speaking into Jacob's life about a specific character quality based on their pre-planned remarks. Their own personalities and styles came out. I had like a 6-page document with footnotes and book references to... I'm just going to wing it and record it so I can remember what I said after the fact. Like everybody showed up the way they show up.
Yeah.
But they had this topic that I had asked them to cover. And I'll tell you what, by the time the ceremony was over, everybody in that room at least once had tears in their eyes.
Yeah,
just because of the impact. Even now I'm starting to get a little teary thinking about it. It was so formational. It was wisdom principles. It was practical life skills. It was, here's what I've learned. And boy, if you can learn it sooner than me, you got a head start. Wow. And then, of course, you and I have this deep passion to follow Jesus in everything that we do. There was a whole spiritual component that was brought in, and really a foundation throughout the entire thing. And when we were done with all of the talks, the wisdom or whatever, we had a chance to pray over him and bless him in that way. And oh my gosh, man.
Wow. What was his reaction to all that?
So he was very emotional coming in because he had just taken the last few hours and gone back through his childhood, and he recognized that he was walking through that, crossing that threshold through that door. And he really wanted to squeeze out whatever he could. So he already came in prepped for this, not knowing what was to come. And some of this is just his personality, but he soaked it up.
That's
He
awesome.
sat there and listened and focused and followed and he just ate it up because he recognized how sacred this time and this space was that we
Yeah.
had created for him.
That's cool, man. Wow. Question, I'm wondering, what were some of the topics that the guys talked about and dived into with Jacob?
Yeah, so I think we've mentioned it before. I have developed, as part of our process, developed 4 character qualities that I really wanted to grow up in my boys. Faith and love, really on the spiritual side, and then honor and courage on the more practical day-to-day side.
Yeah.
Not that the other 2 aren't practical, but those were the 4 qualities that really represented our essence of manhood.
Okay.
And then the motto of loving God and loving others. So each of the men got, or one of the men got assigned one of those qualities.
Oh,
whether
cool.
it's how to love, how to grow your faith, what does honor look like, or what does courage look like. And then I also incorporated a leadership topic and a topic around responsibility, which was kind of like integrity and character and taking your place and being responsible for what it is that you are to be responsible for.
Yeah.
So the basic 4 character qualities, and then supplemented with a few other things. I also had a few others that couldn't be there, and they submitted videos or
sweet.
letters
Yeah.
around what does it look like to live out your passion. Jacob is very passionate about music. He's going to be pursuing music professionally. How do you integrate that into life? And whether it's music or something else, how do you take the gifting that you've been given and begin to live that out?
Yeah.
So those were the
that's
topics
cool, man.
that I asked the guys to come, and I really wanted them and their uniqueness to come through. I gave them, asked them, assigned them, voluntold them the topic, but I left it up to them to really figure out how they wanted to do it and deliver it.
So yeah, it's not a lot of it's not rocket science. Actually, none of it's rocket science. It seems like from the topics to just the way you guys came across and encouraged Jacob in this step. You know what I mean? Like this final crossing over into manhood was really just something natural.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it wasn't forced at all. And I think, I don't know, from the way that you said that he reacted, that must have been very impactful.
Oh, man.
Very impactful.
I've said many times to many different people about this that I want him to know down the road when he has questions, when he looks at the cultural stereotype of man and says, but that's not me. Or when he looks at things that people have accumulated or accomplishments that people have racked up or whatever it is, when he starts to look at those and question his own manhood, he can go back to this date in this year at that point in time and said, not only did my dad say that I was enough, but this group of men that was around me in the sacred council, they said I was enough too.
Yeah.
And you know what? I believe them. And that's enough for me.
That's cool. Man, what a good time.
Oh, it was so good. We also incorporated some gifts. I won't spill them all out here, but we incorporated some gifts.
Okay.
Some sort of fun, some are more serious in nature.
Okay.
But there was some tangible things that he can take away from this event
cool,
as well.
man.
And again, he can always refer back to it.
So what are some, you got to a point where you were able to execute all this, and we've talked about the journey before, but what are some tips that you would give to fathers and dads, as maybe they're nearing the point of ceremony? What would you say would be some helpful hints or I'm sorry, helpful tips
Yeah.
for them?
Yeah. So I guess first what comes to mind is don't underestimate the impact that this ceremony can have. You know, think about other graduation type ceremonies. Why do we have high school graduation ceremonies and college graduation ceremonies and boot camp graduation in the military, or in the Cubs or the Boy Scouts example, the going from just a regular scout to an Eagle Scout? Why do we have those? Because they're powerful, they're meaningful, they are symbols of this transition that's taken place. Well, it's no different here.
Yeah, man.
In fact, maybe it's even more powerful here just because of this sacredness of passing the mantle of manhood from father to son. So don't underestimate the power of a ceremony. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. I think maybe the second thing that comes to mind is just the consistency of recognizing who you are, who your son is, and designing an experience that really speaks to both. You know, we've joked before about you're not an outdoorsy guy.
No.
So it probably wouldn't make sense for you and your son to strap on some backpacks and put on some boots and go walk into the woods. Like, that is not going to speak to him as much as something else would.
Yeah.
So some of this is my wiring too, but don't necessarily just do it like they do it. Do it like you do it.
Yeah.
You be you in this situation, and incorporate who your son is. By the time your son gets to this age, whatever age it is, you've been taking him through this process so far, you should have a pretty good feel for who your boy is.
Yeah.
When I get to my second one, the ceremony will have similar elements, but I got to do it different because he's a different kid.
A different kid, yep.
So I guess that's maybe the second tip, is capture that uniqueness in a way that will really speak to him, to the boy. And maybe, man, the third thing that I think really added to the power of the day is we weren't alone. We did it in the community of other guys. Now, some of these guys have known about what we've been doing ever since we started. One of the guys in the room was part of our original kickoff trip, backpacking trip. So that was fantastic to be able to see that all the way through and have him be there at the beginning and now there at the end.
Yeah.
So just because, though, I guess let me say it this way: it didn't include just people who had been traveling with us down this manhood journey. It included other people, people that were more recent to his life but very influential in his life, and grandparents that have been there since he was in the hospital. You know, so I was able to draw in people that know him, know what we are about, were willing to be vulnerable with him in this setting. And I know it made it just so much better.
Sounds like it did.
Yeah, than him just hearing those same things from me.
Yeah,
You know, he heard the wisdom, but from these others, and they were also there to be able to say, "Welcome, join us."
Join us as a man.
The next time we do this, you're going to have a seat at this table. You're not going to be the initiate anymore. You are going to be part of this council. And so we're excited to welcome you in so that you can take your place. Like,
that's awesome.
It was so good, man. It was so good.
So have there been actually two questions. Let me backpedal here. Two questions. One, we've talked about everybody's ceremony will come at different times and it'll be different and whatever. How did you know that Jacob was ready
good question.
for the ceremony? When did it click that, okay, he's ready to cross the threshold?
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, this was my experience, not necessarily a rule, right?
Yeah.
So I thought early on in this process that that space around the transition from high school into post high school would be the ideal time.
Okay.
Now, not everybody does it that way. Some that I know of actually have multiple ceremonies, just based on the different seasons of a boy's life. But for me, from the beginning, I was kind of targeting that high school graduation time frame.
Okay.
Well, over the last year and a half, we have seen such significant maturity growth in this young man that it became pretty clear he's ready.
He's ready.
And this timing will square with who he is, where he is in life, and the transition period that I had thought might be ideal 6, 8, 10 years ago. But he was ready, you know. Wow. And we approached the event as sort of like bringing evidence to the table that you have understood and begun to lean into these character qualities, and here's how we know, because we've seen you do this, or here's how you define honor, and guess what, I've seen that in your life. So it was, there was no way he was going to fail. But it was as if he's coming before a board of elders saying, are you ready? And the answer was clearly yes. And so we just saw the evidence, the proof in his life that, okay, now, does he have it all figured out? No. Does he frustrate us at times? Yes. Are we still parenting? Yes. But was he ready? Yes. He was. Okay. And we could see the fruit, the evidence in his life of these qualities of manhood that we had been working toward. They're manifesting in how he's living, and he's ready.
You know, it's funny. I think it's easy just to watch, it's easy just to say it, but it really does take this relationship. It's relationship with your boy. It's relationship with the rest of your family. Knowing, I'm pretty sure you and your wife had talks. Okay, wow, maybe he's ready, maybe he's not. His friends. This is all predicated on relationship. And that's really
right.
huge.
That's right.
Now, I have one more question. I know we're almost out of time.
No, shoot.
But I have one more question, because this is the one for me.
Now I'm nervous.
No, don't be nervous. Because before this ceremony, you regarded him still as a boy.
Right.
But now he's a man.
That's right.
How has that changed your
question.
Relationship?
Yeah.
How, or I mean, I know it's only been a little bit, but what changes have you seen so far?
Yeah. So I anticipated this coming, and you asked earlier about how did we know he was ready. I wanted this to be as smooth a transition as possible, and so over the last 6 months or so, or the 6 months leading up to that event, I began to really change how I was interacting with him, because I saw him as much more mature and responsible. And, oh, by the way, he's heading off to college and he's going to have to figure it out on his own. I'm not going to be there. Not that I can't help, but he's going to have these day-to-day opportunities where he's got to lean into who he is and what does it mean to be a man. So I started changing my conversations with him. My approach with him became more like, instead of, here's what you should do, it is, well, what do you think about this?
Okay.
How would you like to handle this? It became more of a question conversation rather than dad says. And so he didn't know that I had begun that. And part of it, Alon, was also for me, just to get my mindset wrapped around it's coming. And it's not going to do him or us any good if we tell him he's a man and then treat him no different. So one of the biggest challenges for us as parents has been around technology, in the hands of kids. How do you navigate that? And one of the ways that we have given him responsibility as a man is to take a lot of the controls off of the technology that we had in place. And I won't go into all of those. It's kind of not relevant for our conversation here, but that was one of the ways that we were still very influential in how he managed his time and technology and access. And so after we were done, I'm like, okay, you know what the controls are that are in place today. You tell me which ones you want to maintain and when you're ready for them to go. And so we've not gone completely to his total independence, because he hasn't come to me and said, Dad, I want responsibility for this or that. But we've taken a lot of things off of our control and put them onto his control.
Nice.
And so that's a very easy one to point to.
Yeah.
But it's not always been easy, because he's still living under roof.
Sure.
He's still not financially independent. So it's kind of this awkward stage, like any kid that's preparing for college, comes back home, re-enters. I've been away for a while. What are the rules like? What freedoms do I have? I think you could say that we are getting some of that out of the way before he even goes off to college, because we started the transition after that ceremony. He doesn't ask us anymore for permission to go out and do things. He just says, here are my plans. Do you have any concerns? Do you have any questions? Or I'll be home at this point in time. And we're like, okay, thanks for letting us know. Thanks for letting us know. Go have a good time. If plans change, just let us know. Just communicate with us. So
yes, it's a definite change.
It's cool. It's good.
Really cool, man. Really cool. I hope listeners get some ideas and thoughts, and get their brains stimulated in thinking about stuff for their boys and such. I know I am. I got some thoughts and ideas as well. So thank you for sharing this.
Oh, my pleasure, man. It's I'll talk to anybody and everybody about this one, just because the experience was so good. And you know how it is talking to somebody who's into something. I'm clearly into this, and to be able to see it from start to finish, I feel like, oh man, it was worth it. Every step along the way, it was worth it. And now I can see the results, and man, it could not have gone better.
That's cool, man. That's really cool. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, my pleasure.
All right. Well, as always good sitting across the table from you, talking into the microphones.
Yes, sir.
Sharing thoughts. Until next time, man, rock and roll, bro.
Adios, buddy. Hey, listeners, thanks for journeying with us on this Next Man Up podcast. We would love to hear from you. Maybe you have a question or an idea, perhaps a topic for us to consider. If that's you and you want to reach out to us, you can get us at feedback@thenextmanup.com. That's feedback@thenextmanup.com. Again, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, we'll see you later.